back to CoBo Challenge 2017. Today we are very honored to have Luc Tuymans and Frank Demaegd with us. Luc Tuymans is a Belgian artist who lives and works in Antwerp, and he is considered one of the most influential artists working today. And Frank Demaegd is the founder and owner of Demaegd Gallery, also based in Antwerp. You set up the gallery in 1981.
That's right, yes.
So this year we are celebrating the 36th.
Actually already the 36th anniversary. 35th was last year, but last year we also celebrated 25 years of collaboration with Luc. So we decided actually in September to celebrate that moment, important moment, that collaboration. And we decided actually to celebrate our 35th anniversary here on the art fair in Hong Kong.
Wow, what an honor.
That's the reason.
Did you still remember how you first met and how you first started to collaborate together?
Well, I had seen some of Luc's work in an artist's space in Antwerp, actually not far from the gallery. And Luc knew about it, so he came to see me, and I did a studio visit, and that's how actually the collaboration started.
How old were you?
Well, I have to calculate. I am 58 now, and that was in 90, so count it out. I must have been in my 30s. I must have been 33 years old, something like that.
Were you the one of the very few galleries in Antwerp at that time?
At that moment there were only a few galleries, and I think the other important thing is to say that we both actually are coming out of a modernistic vision. So we came out of a period where painting was dead. So when I did the first show with Luc in 90, it was quite exceptional to show painting again.
Yeah, that's true, and that was also a risk that Frank took. I knew Frank's gallery because of the shows, and the shows were actually quite radical also. It was shows with installations, and as Frank says, I mean, when Frank was starting the gallery, I think he was the only gallery opposite of the Museum of Fine Arts. Also, a little bit also in the history of the wide space, it was also in the same region, which is a mythological gallery from the 70s. So, yeah. It's only when the MUCA opened, dus the Museum of Contemporary Art, that a lot of galleries came to the neighborhood.
Do you remember the first show you put up together?
Yeah, well, we were lucky. We had a beautiful first show in 90, and one of the paintings, The Body, which actually is on the cover of our 25th collaboration book.
Celebration book.
Yeah. Exactly. This went immediately to the museum in Ghent, to the SMAC. So Jan Hoed, the director at that time of the museum, and also later the leader of the Documenta, actually was a big supporter, and he believed in the work of Luc as well. So he bought two paintings actually at that time for the museum. So out of the first show, that was of course immediately a success, let's say that way.
What's your first solo show?
No, my very first solo show was in '85 for one day in an empty swimming pool in a hotel in Ostende, to which nobody came except my mother and a couple of friends. And then my mother went to look in the swimming pool at the paintings and started to cry. So she was sure that it was never going to work. But I, from the balcony of that same building in which the swimming pool was, saw the work out of my small studio. And it was important to see it in a different environment, and that's where I knew it was going to work. I mean, it's also important to see a gallery is not a shop. It's where the artist shows his new body of work initially. It's a very initial place in a sense. And because you could say you could do it virtually, but that's not the same, especially not with artwork. So it's an important place. That's also why you have important collaborations.
Can you recall some key moments or kind of the happiest moments that you have in this
Well, I think already the first show was a key moment, but then immediately, of course, 2 years later, that Luc was invited for Documenta was a very key moment in the way that, I mean, Documenta, that means you get a platform for the world.
International.
And immediately, you know, like Casper Koenig and Harold Zeeman, who were really famous curators at that time, really were impressed by seeing a young painter with small little paintings. You know, this was, yeah, it's maybe today it's not exceptional, but at that time it was quite exceptional to show that.
Do you consider that as a breakthrough in your careers?
Well, there was in 1 year, and that was 92, were two elements which was important, which was, and that also came through Frank, because Frank already worked with a painter, of which who's unfortunately no longer with the living. There's a beautiful work around the corner here from Raoul de Keyser, who was also a person who saw my work and liked my work, and did a show with Ulrich Look, who was at that point the director of the Kunsthalle in Bern, which was at that point an important place. And he came to visit Frank in the gallery, and he saw some of my work. And then he came to my studio. And this, of course, also came to the ears of Jan Hoot, who was the preparing the Documenta, so it all worked together, see? And then the second blow was, of course, the show in the Kunsthalle was right before the Documenta, and then there was a Documenta, which was an international platform.
What is the most fulfilling thing in this collaboration for you?
For me, is Frank's honesty, and the fact that, yeah, if he can come to my studio and see a work, and when he doesn't like the work, I can see it on his face. Although he could sell the work, yeah, that's not the point. But I can see it immediately. So that is the integrity is important, you see. Other things are, of course, loyalty, but we both are quite loyal, I think. And yeah, and it's during the years, of course, you get to know each other also on a human level. Huh? So, no.
What about you, for you?
Well, for me, it's you know, the belief that you have in an artist as Luc. When you see after 25 years that you still can go to the studio and be surprised about what he's doing, you know, and never lay back. I mean, he's still working very hard all the time, giving interviews, and it doesn't matter who is doing the interviews. It can be a student, or it can be an important person. I mean, this is the energy that Luc is putting in all these things is enormous, and I really admire that a lot. And yeah, I mean, it's of course it's the work, and after so many years, seeing that the work is going into important museums, like I had last time that it was in the Met Breuer, that I could see his work next to Cézanne and Picasso. Well, I mean, that's something very special.
I saw you dancing last night. I believe you do have this energy in you all the time. Do you have a funny story or funny moments that you can share with us? Tell us a funny story.
Well, very early on in the collaboration, and this was my very first show outside of Belgium, I think, in France, which was not a selling show, it was a show in an art center. It was in the middle of France, in Creux de l'Enfer, which is a very small city. And the art center was important, but it was a very small city with a very small population. So Frank and I go there, we build up the show, and it went very well and fast. And so in the evening we said, okay, we're done earlier than we thought. We're going to have a nice dinner, and we're going to have a drink and go out a little bit. So we went to the only discotheque which was there.
Dancing again.
And yeah, and we were dancing. But in that, there is an industry in that particular city where they make knives. And a great deal of the population was actually originally from Algeria. And when we came into the discotheque, I felt there was, and also like when you go to small towns in France, if you're not from the town, you know, the people don't really like strangers in a way. So I felt some kind of hostility in a way. And then we started dancing, and there was a corridor here, and here's the dance floor, and one of the girls started to dance with me or with Frank, I don't know, and one of the boyfriends got angry and sort of came to me, and I pushed him back, and of course the bouncer put me out. So I knock on the door, and he hadn't seen that. First it's Frank's jacket, and then it was Frank. So he gets really mad, and he starts knocking on the door. I said, let's go, because it's 25 people, we're not going to win that. But that meant that the night of the opening we had to go to another town to have the dinner and the party. So
you left.
Because there was only one discotheque, you know.
You remember that?
No, I remember that very.
yeah, and we immediately got the name of, you know, like troublemakers from the Flanders or something like that.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.